All right, folks, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. My name, whenever you're ready, or we want to roll live, you tell me. Good afternoon, and welcome to the North Andover Senior Center. My name is Dr. Greg Gilligan, Superintendent of Schools, and I'm thrilled to be here today to talk about our school capacity projects. I'm really appreciative of the folks here at the Senior Center and the town offices letting us use this space so that we could vary meetings. We mostly have been doing them in the evening, but it's a great chance to use this facility and do one during the daytime. So thank you so much. We're here to talk about the school projects as part of Facilities Master Plan 2, and that involves Atkinson, Franklin, Kittredge, the North Andover Middle School, Fire Station 2, and the Youth Center. And it involves renovating an and/or building school to impact class size, to put us in ADA compliance, provide the space and equity needed for 21st century learning, and also building capacity for future growth. Schools of this age simply weren't designed 71 years ago, like for example with the Kittredge, to accommodate spaces like speech, English learners, special education. Very different then. They didn't need the space for technology and some of the infrastructure needed there as well. Simply put, we want to tackle these things so we can create the best places for teachers to teach and students to learn. And more importantly, I always like to point out that this is just not a school project. This is a school and a town project. Included in this are the fire station at the split at Johnson and Salem, adding another bay for an ambulance, as well as we have female firefighters in North Andover. We have some time, and it's also building a bunk room or sleeping quarters that's appropriate for that, as well as additional space at our hugely successful youth services program that Rick Gorman runs at the North Andover Youth Center to create some space, flex space particularly behind the current center, as anyone could attest to, especially when middle school gets out, the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids that walk that way and participate in Rick's programs, not only throughout the school year, but probably one of the most successful summer programs in New England is part of it as well. We know by working together, the schools and the town, we can accomplish a great deal together. And I think we saw that in Facilities Master Plan 1, where we had the ability to add the Kittredge gym, renovate Town Hall, build a school administrative building, redo the DPW, build a new Fire Station 1, build the Ann Bradstreet School, which has really allowed us to start tackling those class size issues. And right now, as many of you probably know, on the corner of Surrey Drive and Sutton, up behind the China Blossom, the construction on the new senior center has just started. And I live up in that neighborhood, and when I see the picture of what that senior center is going to look like, I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. And it's what our seniors deserve. So these projects are really important, and probably one of the most impactful things that we can do as a district and a town that will impact us for decades to come in the schools. These decisions and these projects will truly make a difference over the next 40 to 50 years. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce a few of the key folks here today. We have Town Manager Melissa Murphy-Rodriguez. She's at all of our meetings. We meet weekly, and I really enjoy working with her. From the school committee, we've got the Vice Chair, Amy Mabley. We have Sophia today from Senator DeZoglio's office. Jim Mealy's going to introduce the MVG group when it becomes time. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mealy. He's the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning. Oh, excuse me. Lorene Marks. We had a long MCAS presentation last night. I'm still live Lorene on the brain here. For finance and operations. Dr. Mealy was co-chair of our school capacity group with Holly Vitsky Lynch, and tremendous parent participation, community participation. It's been terrific. So without further ado, The Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations, Dr. Jim Mealy.
Thank you, Dr. Gilligan. So I will introduce right now, Al Crevis is here from Mount Vernon Group. They are the consultants that have been working with us right from the start and will continue to do so as we continue to try to build support and provide information for these projects. Dr. Gilligan was speaking to the projects that have already occurred. He wasn't aware that these pictures were behind him, but these are the projects that we worked on. That you can see Town Hall, School Administration Building, the ABECC, DPW was renovated, Kittredge Gym was built, the new fire station was built, and then you can see the site of the senior center. That's what it looks like right now, but you can also see the rendition on the website of what it's going to look like. So those are the projects that were part of Facilities Plan 1. And now we're talking about Facilities Plan 2, which all along the main focus of was going to be on the schools that are in need of renovation in the town of North Andover. Specifically, we have the Atkinson, Franklin, and Kittredge Elementary Schools. We have the North Andover Middle School, and we also have the Ann Bradstreet Early Childhood Center, which is fairly new, but when we built it, the funds didn't allow us to build a sufficiently sized gym and some additional support space, so that's on here as well. And as Dr. Gilligan mentioned, Fire Station number 2 needs some renovations and some additions, and the youth center is going to have some flex space added onto it as well. For the schools, the focus is renovating these older schools that have been built in the 40s and 50s and haven't had much done to them since then, and a lot of it is original electrical, plumbing, HVAC, which are not efficient and not necessarily up to code either. We also want to ensure equity and provide needed support spaces for our 21st century learners. We want to be able to impact class size, build capacity for future growth, and then eliminate those portables that are well past their expected lives. They came in the 80s, 20 to 25 year life expectancy at the most, and they've gone well past that. First thing we did, the MVG came in town-wide to all these projects, not just the school projects, and did building assessments. Those are available on the, at least the schools are, the town assessments available online. So you can find these assessments either on the school capacity page of the North Andover School District website or on the town website for the town projects, but the full assessments are available. Basically, they show we have older schools in need of renovations. The mechanical systems need to be modernized. They need to be brought up to modern code, including fire suppression sprinkler systems in Atkinson and Franklin. And they need to meet ADA requirements. They don't in a lot of cases with regards to ADA and modern code, but we're grandfathered in because the building already existed before that rule went into place or the code went into place. So while we're grandfathered, that's not necessarily a good thing. We need to provide environments more conducive to learning, and we want the ability to improve indoor air quality. I've been explaining to people that while our air quality is to standard, we had testing done last year, we had testing done again this year. It's not as optimum as it could be. If we had newer systems that allowed for the use of higher rated filters, then we could control air quality even more than we can right now. So that's another benefit of doing the renovations. Also, a big issue that became clear when we did our surveys is it's really important to the community to have equity among our elementary schools. We already have it in our kindergarten school, our Bradstreet Early Childhood Center, and the middle school and high school because all of our students go to the same school. But it's important that there be equity among the elementary schools, which is right now not the case. So we kind of hold Sargent up as the bar that has all the spaces you would anticipate a 21st century school having, but our other schools don't. So we want to make sure all schools have room to grow, have space to impact class size. Research has shown that reducing class size definitely has a positive impact on student achievement. All schools should have appropriate sports spaces, should have dedicated appropriate specialist spaces, and should provide environments conducive to learning. So specifically on these projects, you've got Kittredge Elementary School, which is built in 1949. This doesn't really show, but you can see the white roof. That was the modular classrooms that were added in 2010 in the green roof. If you haven't driven by, you can't miss the gym, which was built in 2013. So those are both in good shape. The rest of the building, though, is good to fair condition on the exterior and fair to poor on the interior. We just recently had MSBA in, Mass School Building Authority, to do a walkthrough. We were selected for the next phase of their program, which means they do a conference call with us and then a visit to the school to see if they're going to invite us into the program. No promises yet. We'll find out either in December or March if we're going to be asked into the program. But just in doing the tour of the building, we had put Kittredge as the number one priority because of the condition of it, and it definitely spoke for itself as we did the tour. There's a lot of needs that were obvious to not just us, but those who were doing the rounds as well. So the same things we've talked about: ADA compliance, code compliance, replacing original systems that are just not effective or efficient anymore, and upgrading all of that. We have some pictures that you can see regarding access. This first picture, top left, if you come into the building, the nurse's office is actually up these stairs to the right, which cannot be accessed if you happen to be in a wheelchair. You have to go outside and then through a classroom to get there. So again, we're grandfathered in, but that's not even close to what you'd want to have be the situation. So in other pictures as well, you can see the original equipment, non-compliance, water infiltration. All of these things are the conditions there and at the other schools. One of the things we did was a space analysis. So based on what Mass School Building Authority recommends for square footage for various spaces and what we have. So on the left, you can see our existing rooms and the current square footage. In the case of Kittredge, there are cases where we've closed off a corridor to create space, and that's been in the past a library, it's been a teacher's workroom, now it's the art room, but it originally was corridor. We recently moved our electrical service from inside the building to out, and all of a sudden, we've got this electrical closet that can now be used for educational space. Again, no windows, tiny, not really conducive to learning, but it's all we have, so we use it. So you can see we have 12 classrooms. That only allows us about 240 students in the building, where we would rather have 20, even up to 22 or 23, which would give us 400 to 450 student capacity. Our art room is only 700 square feet. Again, it's just a closed-off corridor. It should be 1,000. We don't have a music room. In the past, we've used a classroom, but now the classroom is being used for a grade, and the one that we are using for, when we are using music, it's not the 1,200 that is required or recommended. The reading room is a converted closet, so it's only 140 square feet instead of the 500 recommended. The cafe and kitchen is tiny compared to what it should be. Then that means we have to have 6 lunches at Kittredge, which kind of upsets the schedule of the day to have to manage that. So that's another issue that would be addressed with the recommendation we have. The gym is new, as we said, and it's certainly sufficiently sized, so that's good. And the rest of the areas, you can see the library is about half of what it should be. The support spaces are about a third of what they should be. And special education, which we have some excellent programs at Kittredge that allows us to keep students in district, which is best for the students, but the space is not ideal. And the nurse, as we showed, need to be able to access it, but it's also a little more than half of what it should be. And OTPT has an access issue. It's part of the stage has been closed off to the gym and cafeteria, and you have to get upstairs to go in behind where PT, OT is. So it's an access issue, and it's about a quarter the size of what it should be. So we did that for each school. Atkinson, built in '64, is a middle school originally. So that means the gym and the kitchen cafeteria are sufficiently sized because they were built for a large school and a middle school. But everything else is pretty similar to what we looked at Kittredge. The roof has some spots that we've been patching together as best we can. The plumbing, maintenance every year has been going up because of the age of these systems, and the need to keep them going is greater every year. So the interior is mostly good to fair, but we do need ADA and modern code compliance, and the systems are original, so need a lot of maintenance, need to be updated. And Atkinson also has, and with Franklin, is one of the schools that does not have a sprinkler system. So this would be our opportunity to install the sprinkler system that they've never had, and also an elevator that they never had. They have a lift, which you can see in this picture in the middle bottom, but it's not really compliant. It's not what is recommended, and so we would install an elevator for the two floors that Atkinson has, and the proposed addition would have two as well. So it would make sense to install the elevator. And you can see the roof issues we have there, the non-ADA hardware and clearances issues, and the outdated components, especially electrical components. We did the same thing. I won't go through the whole thing for Atkinson. I would highlight that you can see the calf and kitchen and gym are right where they should be, but all the other spaces are similar to what you saw at Kittredge, where either we don't have that room, or if we do, it's undersized for what it should be. And then Franklin, very similar to Atkinson. This one was built in '58 and extended in '67. It has portables that need to be removed just like Atkinson does. The conditions are all pretty much the same as Atkinson that need to be addressed, and it also needs a sprinkler system as well. And again, the pictures that show the issues at Franklin. And just a reminder, these all can be seen on our website in the assessments. We did a final report that's on the website that highlights the whole presentation in more detail. Dr. Gilligan, you want to say something?
Yeah, I do. Thank you there, Dr. Maley. Right at northandoverpublicschools.com, our main page, right under featured news is the school capacity forum dates, but it also has a link in that article that brings you straight to the school capacity webpage with all of this information. So you can access it right from our main website at northandoverpublicschools.com.
Thank you. And again, we did the same analysis for Franklin that we talked about, and I'll highlight here, their calf and kitchen is sufficiently sized, but their gym is woefully undersized. It's like a couple classrooms put together, which could be repurposed as classrooms, but it definitely needs a standard-sized gym for elementary. Their libraries are also a nice library that would be sufficiently sized, but the other areas are converted classroom, either split classrooms or converted closets or storage space. North Andover Middle School, built in 1953 as the high school, extended in '62 and '95. It does see a little more wear and tear than elementary schools as our students get older. It's a little more wear and tear on the buildings themselves. The most exteriors and interiors are in good to fair condition, but it does need, again, ADA compliance and modern code compliance. And we also need to update the science labs, which would be the addition we would do that would free up what's being used as the science rooms now for additional classrooms. And the same here, we have some pictures of the issues that exist there, and they're pretty similar to what you've seen in the other buildings. So the other thing we did is enrollment projections, where originally we had a couple of consultants come in and independently do enrollment projections, and we then compared those two to use kind of the high and the low and see where they were in the middle between the two studies. But looking at our own data, which we have going back 25 years, you can see that there's a trend line here. You can't see it too well, but there's a dotted trend line. The darker line going up and down shows the peaks and the valleys as we go, but that trend line has been consistently 35 students per year over the last 25 years, and that's what we're projecting, and that's what we got from the consultants as well. When you compare the two, that we anticipate about 35 students per year going forward. And that does take into account the new developments and the birth rate and all those variables. So the recommendation, and this was based on the survey, the input we got from the community and from staff through surveys and public forums. It was pretty clear, actually, and they want to maintain the current grade distribution, want to maintain neighborhood schools, no surprise there, but we also want to make sure we address the conditions that exist right now. We want to make sure we provide equitable education across the district. We want to make sure we have the support spaces that our schools now need as education changes, and provide 21st century learning, be able to impact class size, but also be able to compensate for growth as it occurs. We want to remove those portables, and we want to do so in a fiscally responsible way. So this is another way, visually, just to see what we're doing. Venn diagram, you can see in the middle those things that are consistent with all of our projects, and that's ADA compliance, code compliance, removing any portables that are there, adding classrooms, adding support spaces, renovating the exterior, and updating our systems. Specific to certain projects, where the one school we're recommending new as opposed to renovation is Kittredge. And then site-specific, we've got the Franklin and the ABECC gyms. We have middle school science labs. We have the Atkinson elevator, and then Atkinson and Franklin are the schools that need fire suppression. So these are some concept drawings of a preliminary design of how this could be accomplished at each school and the two town projects. So you can see at the middle school, that courtyard could be used to do a 2- or 3-story addition that would still allow for natural light for not only the new rooms, but also the existing rooms. It could go right in the courtyard. There is, and this one actually gets a lot of interest because people are like, I don't agree with that. I don't see why it would want to go in the courtyard or how they could even do that. And they ask about the front of the building, which is here, or they ask about next to the cafeteria. What I would say is that this is preliminary and what looks like the best option right now, but once the design is begun, then it will be looked at and really decided what is the best option. It could be one of the other ones I just mentioned, or it could be the courtyard, but that will be decided during the design phase. Kittredge is the one that we're recommending new, so this is a possible design for the Kittredge school. You can see in the blue the existing modular classrooms and gym would be kept, and then a new building would be built around that on the existing site. And the front part that you see would be where the existing building is now, but it would be demolished. So you would build a good part of this while the students were still attending, and then move them into the new to demolish the existing. I think this is probably a good time to ask Al just to talk to from Mount Vernon Group, because this is a big question we get, is how are you going to do these projects with our students still going to school? It's not like you can do them over a summer. There are some projects that can be done, but not of this magnitude. So you have to do some phasing, and I'm going to ask Al just to speak to that.
Thank you, Jim. So yes, basically when we consider phasing of a project, the first thing and foremost is to address the safety of the students, teachers, and parents. So in doing so, to address that particular issue, we need to have complete separation between the construction areas and the areas where the students, teachers not only access the site, but within the building. So that's the first and foremost thing. The second is educational delivery. And we work with the community in terms of the district to determine how much of the renovation we can do while we're doing new construction. That's going to determine the length of the project. So that's the second piece to that. And then we phase that in over time. The more construction we can do up front, the shorter the time period. And that's basically how we address it. Complete separation of construction areas, make sure that the air quality is maintained during that time, sound levels, all of that. And we have, meetings during the construction on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis, not only with the district, the contractors, but also community members that want to be involved so that those issues that may arise during the construction are addressed immediately.
Great, thank you. So you could see at Franklin where the new gym would go in, where the portables are now, and we would connect the wings in the back of the school. So just specifically to what Al was just talking about, you could do that independent of the other, the existing school and have the students attending there, and then when this is completed, you can move them out of a section into the new section and then renovate that section you just moved them out of. Same at Atkinson. So this would be, the design could possibly be to mirror the existing wing. So if you drive in the front of the building, you're coming along the front of the building, we could match that wing, another two-story wing on the back side of that with the elevator, as we said. And then ABECC, what you see here is the proposed gym is on the site of the existing preschool playground. And that could just move, it wouldn't have to go too far to this area, which would be beside the kindergarten playground. And then fire station number 2, which is where Salem Street and Johnson Street meet. The blue is the existing. This would add the ambulance bay to the bay area, and then the living quarters could be upgraded and expanded to allow for the separation that Dr. Gilligan was talking about and some other support spaces that they need. In the youth center, he talked about flex space that would be added as the program continues to grow because of the success it has, could be added on the back of that building. So the school committee made its recommendation to the facilities master plan group, working group, which consists of Lori Burzlaff, who's with us now, Director of Town Administrative Services, Steve Foster, our facilities manager, Paul Hutchins, our Chief Building Inspector, myself, Lynn Savage, the Finance Director, and Jim Stanford, the Public Works Director, working closely with the town manager, trying to figure out what the timeline should be and how these projects can be funded. A big part of this, if you haven't already heard, Kittredge was submitted as our top priority to the MSBA. If they invite us in and we decide to participate, then they would reimburse us for somewhere around 40–45% is our best guess right now of the total cost of the project. So that would have a huge impact on our timeline and our funding plan. So we're waiting to hear from them, fingers crossed, that we will be invited in. Like I think I said earlier, they meet in December, make a decision on some of the projects, and then March for the rest of the projects. And we've indicated the importance of finding out as soon as possible, which I'm sure everybody does. But we have stressed the fact that it would be great if we could find out by December so we can put our plan together. So today is the 5th of these public forums. We'll call them the fall public forums because once we do have that funding plan and timeline, we'll be coming out of the holidays with some more public forums to communicate that to the community and to start to build support as we work towards town meeting. Today, as you can see, we're at the Senior Center, and then we're at a select board meeting for the town hall location on the 8th, which is Monday, right? And then ABECC, we're there on the 9th, and then the last one for this set of public forums will be at the youth center on December 1st. So just to finish up the process timeline, the school committee made that recommendation in September. The Facilities Master Plan Working Group has met and continues to work on putting this plan together. These public forums are going to help inform us, and then we'll be working on the cost estimations and the timeline. Hopefully we'll have information in December that will allow us to complete that. And then we'll continue with some public education and support initiatives through January into May with messaging, with the cooperation of CAM helping us get the message out, and some more public forums specifically to talk about the funding plan. This May we'll come forward with the first, we'll present all of the projects and the overall plan, but the actual vote will be for the first project, or if we were somehow going to do 2 projects, it would be for the design of that or those. And then the following year would be the vote to fund the construction of the projects that were approved in May of '22, and then possibly to design. When we first started Master Plan Phase 1, we were trying to stay in a rhythm of design, construction, and design of the next project each year. That's probably not going to be the case with these projects, based on the fact that we're going to try to fund a lot of these without having to go for an override or a debt exclusion vote. And so it might mean that we have to push, there might be a year or 2 space in between some projects, but we'll do the best we can, and that will come out when we talk about when we develop the timeline and plan. And then that'll be the pattern we go is design 1 year and construction the next. To date, during these forums, we've had some pretty good input. People want to make sure that we include in our design the capacity for 21st century technology needs. That certainly became apparent during the pandemic, and we want to make sure we have that in place. Want to continue our partnering with the Stevens Library and see if there's a chance to expand on that. We found that outdoor spaces have been critical in our ability to bring our students back and manage the buildings, and so we want to make sure that we include that in the design, as well as the technology needs that additional outside space might require. And then we talked about, just as I said, it's a big question, how do we keep our children safe and educated during the process? That's what Al was talking about. So we want to make sure we do that. And then we will have, coming out of the holidays, some public forums scheduled to talk about the funding and the timeline. That's it. Dr. Gilligan, do you want to add anything before we close this up?
No, I just want to, echo those same sentiments during any types of projects like this. Number one, the health and safety of our students is paramount, and then right behind that is, not interrupting or impeding the delivery of an excellent education. I just want to remind folks that this is a long-term project, and it's really going to be impactful for many years to come. I sometimes like to point out, I think Facilities Master Plan 1 started in 2012 or 2013, and I think that the senior center completion's probably planned for about 18 months out at this point. So we're in this for the long run, and we know that this is significantly going to impact education here in North Andover for the future.
Open it up. Questions?
Questions?
I don't have any as of right now, but I'll send some over if the senator takes any.
Perfect. Okay, that closes us out for our Senior Center Public Forum. Again, we'll be at town meeting Monday evening. What's that for the fall? Oh, what did I say?
Town meeting.
Town meeting, no, not yet. No.
No, we'll be at town meeting in May,
Yeah.
I think, Jim.
Town Hall on Monday night, Brad Street on Tuesday night, and then Youth Center on December 1st. So, thank you.
Thank you.